Okay, so our project is to make a um, little candle holder. So I was looking at these battery operated candles and thought this is brilliant. We can do something. Excuse me, do something with that. So going to do something like that. So a couple things. First off, going to create a document. And so this document is going to be Valentine. And what we're going to do is we're going to laser cut this, and we have 1/8 inch wood. So something that we're going to do is we're going to use this variable. And this variable, we're just going to call it thickness. And the value is 1/8 of an inch. Um, the reason that I'm doing a variable is I also have 1/4 inch wood, and I may change my mind. And what I can do is change this variable, and everywhere where I refer to the thickness, it will automatically adjust. So the first thing is that I just want to model these tea lights because I think I'm gonna use them. Now, what I think I'll do is I'll model the base first. So I'm going to create a plane. Now, basically, what I want to do is I want to have a plane because I want the tea light on top of the wood. I don't want it inside the wood. So I'm going to have the plane, and I'm going to take the top plane. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to offset it, and I'm going to offset it by the thickness. So there's my new plane. So with plane one, you can see it's actually above the top plane. So I am going to create a sketch on plane one, new. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to model this tea light. So it's 3.5 centimeters in diameter. So I'll do a circle right in the middle. So 3.5 cm for centimeters. And that circle is extruded. And what's it extruded? 1.6 centimeters. So there's my tea light. Now there is a candle, so it's 2.2 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my front plane and create a sketch on the front plane. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically simulate that candle. So I'm going to just my good old fashioned use that edge as a construction line. So I've got my geometry. Um, I'm going to take N to normalize my view. I'm going to go right above here. So this was 2 centimeters. And just double check that 2 centimeters, that's it. So the flame is kind of, it goes out and up and stuff. And I'm I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to create, this is a spline tool, which is really handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that, and I'm just going to click. So I've got a flame tool. Whoops. And I just messed it up. So start it there. So I move over here, click it, and you can see the spline tool allows me to create a curve. So I've double clicked. I've got a couple points here. I can kind of stretch them. There we go. That looks like a flame to me. So just going to take those points and just lock them in space. And all I'm doing is just creating a dimension for these points. So this little point there, which determines the angle and stuff. And I'm not sure why I'm not getting everything nice and black lines yet. There we go. So it's fully constrained now. I can't accidentally drag it. So this is a new technique for us. So I've just got a straight line from that point, and then I've got a spline tool that goes out and around just to kind of form the flame. So I'm going to call this sketch flame, and this sketch was the tea light. All right, now instead of extrude, this is where I can use my revolve tool. And so the revolve tool, what I can do is I can revolve that sketch and I can revolve it around this line. And if I go full, there I've got a little flame. And my tea light is going to be like a white. This part right here, I'm going to pick an orange, but what I'll do is I'll make it semi-transparent so it looks like it's got a little glow. There we go. So there's my little tea light floating in space. And then I can take those 2 points, and what I can do, I'll just tea light and okay. So I've got my tea light, I've got my flame. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create the tea light. So the tea light is going to start on the top, and I'm going to create a sketch. And so this is going to be the base. What I'm doing is I'm creating a little box. So that box is going to be centered, and it's going to be 2 inches by 2 inches. And you'll notice in this document, by typing the formula, I can create inches and centimeters, and I can have them all the same thing. So this is going to be the base. And I'm going to extrude the base. And the depth is going to be, and this is where if I type in a number sign, I can get that variable. So it's going to be the thickness, and it's going to be the base. There we go. And it's a new part. So there's the base. So this is where having a variable is really useful, because if I change it to 1 inch, everything changes. And if I go, oh, I've got 1/4 inch material, I'm going to use that. I can change it, and all the geometry stays just the way I want it, in relation to each other. So that way, the part, because it's on this plane, which is offset by the material thickness, if I change the material thickness, it automatically moves where it needs to be. So that's great. So here I've got my lovely little box, and I think 2 inches is going to work. We're going to see. We're going to make the sides of the box now. So we are going to use the laser cutter. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the top plane, and we'll use our corner rectangle, and we'll just use the top. There we go. And you'll notice I'm moving my mouse over here. So with my mouse over here, oh, you know what? I'm just going to hit escape. And that didn't work the way I thought it would. Dimension tool. So I'm just going to take that, and I am going to type the number sign so I can use my variable. So there's my wall, and this is good. I've got a fair bit of space for my tea light, not a huge amount, but I think that's going to look really sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mirror. I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to click and drag so that those lines are mirrored. And there we go. So sketch. So these are my front and back walls. And what I'm doing here, so the sketch is on the bottom there. I'm going to extrude, and you'll notice I want to make sure that I'm using new, and I'm going to pick 2 inches. And what I want to see, I want to make sure that the candle is totally covered. It is. I might. No, you know what? I'm going to stick with 2, front and back. And I'm going to make sure that it's new. So what I've got here is I've got different walls. And what's really crucial here is that these walls overlap. And this is going to be really important when I'm laser cutting. So I'm going to explain that in a bit. So there's my tea light. I'm just going to hide the tea light in the flame so you can see the walls and everything looks good. So new sketch, I'm going to use the top plane. So now I'm going to do the side walls. And same thing, corner rectangle, start in that corner, go down here, escape, dimension tool, the letter D, and just take those 2 walls, click, number sign, thickness, there we go. Again, I'm going to mirror that so that I don't have to take much time. And it's nice and mirrored, everything's good. And I'll just sketch side walls and extrude. Now, what I'm going to do here is instead of selecting a depth, I'm going to go up to face. And the reason is if I click that face, then my walls go to that face. And the beauty of this is that if I extrude um, the front and back and change my heights, these walls will automatically follow them because they're up to that face instead of me having to go in to multiple things and changing the values of them. So this is where these kinds of techniques really save you a lot of time. Okay, so here's the front. There we go. I've got my little tea light and flame in there. Isn't that purty? Now, that's not, I'm going to have light coming out, but I'd really like to have a nice little kind of glow out the front of this. So I'm going to click this, create a sketch, and new. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a little heart. So to create a heart, a heart consists of two things, a line. So I'm going to use a dotted line here. There's a line at an angle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an arc. So we haven't used an arc yet. So a tangent arc is a really neat thing. So tangent means that the curve and the line are tangent to each other. So what I do is I click the line and I click this point. And now that line is going to be tangent. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking for something that will kind of be a heart. And I think that looks like, if that's mirrored, I think that should be a nice heart. And what I want to do is I want this centered. So a little trick that I use is a construction line. So I set a construction line and let's see, we'll start with 0.5 and turn off the line tool, turn it back on and go from here to there. And what we'll do is we'll do the equals so that these 2 lines are equal. And if I drag this now, I get some different heart effects. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror this. So let's find the mirror tool. So here's a mirror tool. So I'm going to select that line and then that arc and that line. And when I get a heart that I like, so right now it's 0.5. If I change that to 0.75, ooh, I don't like that. 0.5, 0.45. I think that's good. So once I've got it the way I want it, I can then add some dimensions. And there we go. So there's my heart. So what I'm going to do is I am going to sketch my heart. I'm going to extrude and remove through all, and there we go. So I've got a whole bunch of parts here. So part 3, let's just rename that. That's the base. Part 4. So that's, I got to get oriented so I know which way I'm looking at things. Okay, so, oh, here I did that on the left side. That was silly of me. Oh well, it is what it is. So that side is the back. Part 5. That's got to be the front. All symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter. Whoops, what is part 6? That's the left side and the right side. There we go. Okay, so I've got all my parts. I've got names that make sense. Now, I'm going to laser cut these. So how these go together, obviously, they're not going to overlap. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use a script. So feature scripts are really, really useful. So if you do custom features, you can add different feature scripts. And feature scripts are basically different programs. So we're going to use the laser joint one. And so the laser joint feature script is really powerful. So I'm just going to select automatic and select parts. So I'm going to go, okay, I want the base, I want the back, I want the front, I want the left, and I want the right. And what it's doing is it is setting up pins. So it's going to be taking these parts and making little pins. And the beauty of this is kind of like a finger joint system. So you could do this obviously just by drawing rectangles yourself, but it's really, there's a lot of math involved, because obviously you have, in this thing, we have 4 or 5 parts. So in each of the 5 parts, you've got to do the math for each side. So there's like 20 different things that you got to do. So it gets really busy really fast. And this way, it just speeds up the process. So with the laser cutting, we want to add an allowance. So what this is this is the thickness of our laser. And you can see if you zoom in close, what it's going to do is it's going to make the holes just a little tiny bit bigger. And that is allows you, when you're fitting them together, it it works really nicely, because if they're the exact same size, the amount of friction, it's not going to work. So that gives you just a little bit more extra. So we're just going to click the green check mark on that. And just like that, we have some parts. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to comment out. So I'm only looking at one piece. So it almost looks like a jigsaw piece, puzzle piece. But there's the front. And if I take the left and add to it, you can see the left, these fit in. So everything fits in nicely, so that when you put it all together, you add some glue, put them together, and just like that, you have a box. So there's a variety of ways you can do this with the laser joint. You can change those different values and things, but there we go. We now have our parts. The T-light and flame are in there. this particular part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to laser cut it, and then I'm going to put this down and fill it with epoxy. So a red epoxy. So it's semi-transparent. You can see through it. You've got red, so you have this candlelight glow glowing through. Very romantic. So going to try that out. So there is my little laser cut box, and it's all designed. Now, to get it for the laser cutter, what I want to do is I want to lay it out. So there's a feature script for this. So you should have two links. One link is to all the feature scripts that I've added for everybody. So you automatically have these ones. And the laser joint and the auto layout are in there. And then these are the ones that I've added for myself. And you can add your own custom ones by just typing. And if I do laser joint, I should be able to find a whole bunch of different feature scripts that are different laser joint ones, and you can figure out which one. So my only issue with this is that a lot of these are copies. So I like to use the original. So there's what I believe is the original one that I used, which you can add that, and then you've got it in your system and you can use it. So there's the laser joint feature script. The auto layout is one of the ones I've added to the enterprise, so you can access that too. And with the auto layout, for the thickness of the material, I'm going to just use that variable so that if I make a change, it's there. Now, our laser is 24 inches wide and 12 inches tall, so that's perfect. I can specify whatever spacing I want, so that's fine. And this looks good. Green check mark. And what I would do is I'm just going to suppress so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete parts. So I'm going to delete the tea light. And can I delete? I don't want the base deleted. I want the flame deleted. My mistake. So there we go. The reason I want to do that is I've got the parts. I'm going to create an assembly of them. And right click, fix the first one. If I take these, what I can do is I can group them, because grouping them allows me to lock them in place based on where they are in relation to the first one, which is kind of what I want to do. So there we go. So there's my parts. I can now take this assembly and create a drawing of it. So when you create a drawing of an assembly, in the Trillium Lakelands, I've got a laser cutting template. No views. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a drawing, and I want my top view, and I want it one, and this is really important. You don't want to scale it at all. You want it the correct size. All right, so there's my piece. The reason I've got this, what this drawing is that it is a 24 inches by 12 inches, which, if you remember, is the size of my laser cutting bed. And so it lays out the parts and it gives them red lines, and that is what I need to be able to use on the laser cutter. So these three dots, print. Now, you may not get it pop up. You may get a little red thing up here going pop-ups blocked. So you have to click that and click the link to open it up. So this is the PDF. You can download it. And then what I need to do is take that file and bring it into my image editing software, because I need to just make a few adjustments, and then I can send it to the laser cutter. So that will be for another slide.